Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for another stream of us boys sitting here during this boring-ass international break discussing the latest Chelsea news because things just pile up on themselves. Like last night, obviously my apologies for not streaming last night, I just didn't have time. But last night, we found out that, well, at least allegedly, all right, there's no proof, I suppose, but allegedly, Roman Abramovich was poisoned. Like, do you know how mad that is? Like, you know how they say, oh, we all live in a simulation. Bro, we don't live in a simulation. We live in a whole Hollywood movie. And that's after Will Smith started punching Chris Rock in the face at the Oscars. Like, what a couple of days. It's like, this is mad. Absolutely mad. Obviously, we'll discuss if or at all that might or might not have any impacts on us as Chelsea. But we will also discuss the fact that Paul Canoville, of course, Chelsea's first ever, can I say that? Black player? I hope I can say that. But anyway, he had a meeting with the Ricketts, Tom Ricketts, I think specifically, and apparently he has somehow been assured that he's at least in terms of racism okay. Now, what made him be assured of that? No idea. Because some of you idiots, not necessarily any of the people that are watching right now, but some of you out there decided to ruin it all by being racist towards Paul Canners. And now he doesn't even want to give a statement anymore. So you ruined it all. Cheers, lads. Great job. Great job. Well done. Well done. You absolute vile pieces of scum. Stop being racist, all right? Stop doing that. Absolutely unacceptable. But anyway, also, Timo Werner apparently wants to leave Chelsea. I mean, that can be a pretty short discussion. We'll be like, all right, see you then. But, you know, we'll talk about it for a few minutes. But there's a lot to get through. We are still hoping to see Con at some point. He might be asleep. He might be doing something. We have no idea. Let's see whether he turns up or not. Otherwise, we're already joined by three fantastic guests. Jem, you have been on reasonably recently, but not on the last couple of streams. So I'll ask you, how do you feel about the current situation? Like, we'll get into the Roman stuff in a minute. Let's talk a bit about like your thoughts on like, the owner situation. Obviously, it turns out there's no mystery bidder, from the looks of things at least. So the BBC fabricating things. It's almost like the BBC and the UK government are like all under one blanket because they're all as shit as each other. But anyway, no mystery bidder. So 4 bidders being Todd Boehly, the Ricketts, this Pagliuca guy, I hope I pronounced his name wrong, right, and Martin Broughton. Martin Broughton and Pagliuca officially at this moment in time can't even buy Chelsea because of shares in Atalanta or Crystal Palace respectively. So it's kind of between the Ricketts and Todd Boehly. Chelsea fans hate the Ricketts. So Todd Boehly's basically in the lead position. But do you think, Jem, anything has changed drastically with what's come out from Cannes today? Because if Chelsea's official ambassador for racism is okay, obviously Islamophobia and racism isn't necessarily the same thing, and they are kind of being accused of both. But do you fear that this could change things? And because I literally said this to Pice in the group chat today, I was like, ever since the things came out about their background, I was never particularly worried that they would get it because I was like, no chance it's happening. But now, if Canna says this, I am a little bit worried. How do you see
that? First of all, thank you for having me again. It's been a little while since I've been here anyway. Big up to everyone in the chat. Make sure you smash the like, subscribe to his channel as well. Look, I've had pies on mine for a couple of times as well, and I've always stated that like the one real thing above all of this since Roman announced the sale of this football club was the confusion, the lack of clarity, the lack of understanding, the lack of knowing, and I just feel like as a fan base we've been very starved with information and news that should have been brought to us a lot more earlier. You look at the way Raine Group have dealt with the whole process and how long it took them to put this list together and pull it forward, and apparently they're meant to be getting 50 million out of this deal, out of all of this once it's settled as well, which is, I find bizarre in the way that they've been so slow in doing things. And then you think to yourself, there was originally 30 bidders that then got narrowed down to 10 serious bidders. And then them 10 serious bidders were then supposedly maybe put forward to the Chelsea hierarchy, which then initially we'd been told 4 of these individuals or bidders, serious bidders, were then elected. And, as much as we've pushed the narrative about the Ricketts, and I am still, I'll say I'm 100% confident that they're not going to win this because I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know. it's starting to get a little bit edgy when you start seeing the likes of Paul coming out, and then maybe after having meets with them, maybe looking at it in a different image. And I just don't see. And the one thing that I said, I've been saying for a long time when it comes to the Ricketts, is that you don't, since they've been linked to the football club or been now announced as being a serious bidder, you've not really actually had any one positive outcome from it. There's no real positive news to them being the owners of Chelsea. It's just been negative upon negative upon negative, and you can put all the Islamophobia stuff aside for a moment. You know, you can look at the business element of it, and you look at the Chicago Cubs fans, the supporters there, and writing letters to our football club to tell them what they like as owners and why they're not good. And apparently they sell their best players, and they don't pay wages in the way that they should do, and the structure's not really good there, and they're suffering from it, and blah 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 blah. And I just don't get how. Like, money talks, don't get me wrong. Money does go a far way, and it's unfortunate because people will look at the dollar sign. And to be honest, they've got that other fella behind them, Ken. I can't remember his last name, but this guy, from what I understand, has got bundles and bundles of money. But if there's any way that these guys do end up taking over our football club, it will be purely to do with money and money only. There will be no other reason for me that tells me that the Ricketts should really be put forward, even in their long-term project, even in their so-called understanding of what they think they know of our football club and the way that they want to move forward and modulise it. There's just nothing really for me that makes sense. And I trust it. I'm saying I trust, but Bruce Buck and Marina, if they were given the the job of picking the bidders, have kind of let us down already by allowing these guys to be a part of the 4 serious bidders. Although we knew Raine Group were going to back it because they've had previous dealings with them before. And the fact that they find themselves here, the only other option we have as fans and fans that live in London or in the UK, shall I say, is to physically protest if it does get to a stage where it's looking increasingly likely that they may be taking over. But I don't think there's any real statement that can be put forward, Laurenz, that can really back them for them to change the fans' opinions of who they are. Does that make sense? So I'd leave it there.
I completely agree. And the one good thing, even if this kind of statement today or this news about what Paul Canoville apparently thought after their meeting or his meeting with the Ricketts, was that Matt Law, was it a couple of days ago when it was announced that the fans' kind of opinion almost, or the fans' outrage against the Ricketts will have a decisive factor, whether that's not necessarily with Raine, because they're only making a decision purely on a financial basis, but for the people in the end deciding, which seemingly is mostly Bruce Buck and Marina Granovskaya, alongside to some extent the UK government, who have to sign the whole thing off. At the very latest stage, even if Marina and Bruce Buck don't give a shit about the fans not caring, which I don't think they will anyway, but even if they don't, in government, that will certainly be heard. But that's us having to trust UK government. So that's already a problem in the first place. I mean, I'm not English, so it's much easier for me to say this. Is it? Maybe not. I don't know. But it's easy for me to say anyway. So I just hope that Marina, mainly I'm trusting her on this because I'm not sure about Bruce Buck here. Just don't let it get that far, really. That's really the situation I'm in, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But yeah, I agree. Like, there's no good reason. No, there's no reason to let the Ricketts have it. It's outrageous in every sense of the word. And obviously, Jem said there, money. Yeah. But it's not like Todd Boehly's, scraping on the line of poverty. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I will say one thing as I take it to Pice now. I know Jem's just said, how long it takes, but it's still, at least the way it's reported, and obviously I'm not by any means an expert on how long sales of companies or brands the size of Chelsea usually tend to take, but it's still written as there. You can see how quickly this is all tried. This is everybody's trying to get this done. So in there, it maybe in the grand scheme of things of trying to sell something that's worth £2.5 billion upwards, maybe all of this is still quite quick. Just us as random fans, we're like, well, what the hell is taking you? So I guess we don't know what exactly they're doing. But Pice, similar question as I asked to Jem, really. Has the Canners news today kind of made you more worried about the Ricketts situation?
I still don't really know what to think, to be honest. In a sense, yeah, because I feel like I feel like the Ricketts and Tom Ricketts in general has just been really good at this kind of PR game the whole time. I feel like they know. I mean, it's been reported that they know they have to win fans over, and by, I mean, Connors has officially said he's not going to officially endorse any bid, but I mean, his spokesperson said that he's been reassured, and I mean, I don't know. It's a hard one to comment on, to be honest, because obviously you know, I'm white, so I can't really judge um, how he would feel like, if you get what I mean. So it's a hard one to comment on, but I feel like it did, or it has initially made me a little bit more worried that they might seem to get in because they've. I don't want to. Is it one? I don't know if I should say won over him, but kind of, you know what I mean? The kind of angle I'm trying to go towards. Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
like, his first tweet was like, oh, something about the Ricketts, like, shouldn't even be a discussion, and now it's
That's
like
why it's so
been
annoying
reassured, you know?
that he's now. I mean, I understand it, although it's a bit like whether some idiots abuse you racially is outrageous of these people, but that has nothing to do with the people that didn't. So,
Yeah.
and us people that didn't, I still want an explanation of what somehow made you be assured by them when your tweets a week ago were like, they
Well,
shouldn't even be anywhere near it. I still want an
yeah.
explanation of how that
Uh,
can be possible.
I mean, I did read up that it was supposedly along the lines to do with the fact that they've done supposed work in Chicago in certain communities, but still, I mean, like, if your family was involved in those sort of things, then to even keep something like the Chicago Cubs, of course, you would have to do some sort of work, because otherwise you'd be kicked out of that club as well. You know what I mean? Like, their fans would be angry as well, and they are. So, I mean, like, for me, it just all seems like PR from their side to try and win these guys over. No doubt they'll try with the supporters' trust. No doubt they'll probably come out. I'm still expecting and awaiting um, just some sort of PR statement, like, yeah, we've got big things planned for Chelsea, blah blah blah. Because we haven't, like, they've not really said anything yet. Like, I think the hint is towards more about the stadium redevelopment, and what I'm worried about is like them redeveloping the stadium and just using it as like a revenue stream, because I think that's what some Chicago Cubs fans have been saying to me. Like, they haven't really been focusing on the team. It's more been about like using the stadium and revenue, increasing ticket prices is something that I know they've done year on year, which I know Chelsea fans do not like as well. So yeah.
It's a tough one, honestly. I mean, I don't know what ticket prices in the MLB, in the baseball league in America are like. I've no idea what kind of prices we're talking about in terms of price increases here compared to obviously Premier League price, which is ridiculously overpriced already, by the way. You know how insane that is, by the way, that people spend like 60, 70, 90 more dollars or pounds to go to a 2-hour football game. Like, you know how mad that is? What other things cost that much money to do for 2 hours? Like, think about that. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy Premier League ticket prices. But yeah, it's just, I mean, I still think Todd Boehly is in a favoring position, personally. But it's not ideal. Like, I was obviously, we've been talking about in the group chat regularly. I've never really been too stressed by the Ricketts, simply because I was like, yeah, I don't think they're gonna get it. I just never thought they would. I still don't now, but this has edged me a little bit closer to being worried. Clutch, is that potentially similar for you? But also adding to that, which I haven't actually asked the other two boys, or told them to involve in their response, I guess. We have also been told, can't remember by who, but we have also been told that if a new huge offer by someone that hasn't even made an offer yet still turns up and it's a really good offer, that could actually still also be considered, which is interesting. Not exactly sure what that could mean or will mean or whatever, or if it means anything. Probably not. But what are your thoughts at the moment, Clutch?
I'm somewhere in between. Like, part of me says, like, if this Ricketts thing keeps if all this news around the Ricketts keeps happening, there's a reason for it, which means they still have a chance to get it. But that also tells me that, like, you have to be ready to proactively protest this, because, I mean, as I said earlier in a tweet, hatred just doesn't have a place in the world, and how we kind of responded to that hatred with Paul was unacceptable. So that's where I'll start. But for me, it's a toss-up right now. I think it's the money game and who's willing to put more money into it. So to say if some random bidder comes in and says, "Hey, I'll pay 3.5 billion or whatever," and they're automatically in contention, then why haven't we seen that yet? Why is that still a thing? Why are we still having that discussion if we're already in that point? Because I think it does take a while to actually sell the club because there's so many details that you got to get into it, and then also you got to get certain people within the club on board, especially like if Thomas Tuchel personally doesn't want the Ricketts or something like that. Hypothetically, we don't know, and he has his own personal beliefs, and he says, "Hey, I don't want to play or I don't want to manage for the club anymore because of that, because of my belief system." There are certain things that still go into it that I think contribute to all these things. It's still for me Boehly, but I'm not one of those people who are completely counting out the Ricketts because I think anything could happen at this point. I even think there's a chance that Roman keeps it, but that's a long shot within itself. It's just there's so many different things that are going in through my mind right now. I think we need to actively protest what we don't want and make it even more known that the Ricketts are not welcomed here at all from the past. And I think we have to support Boehly in the best way we can because he is the best option right now. I don't think there's going to be somebody else who comes in and takes the chance or pays the money that would be needed to actually buy the club. For me, it's either Boehly or hope that like 5% chance that Roman stays. I think that's where I'm at.
Fair dues. Let me take it back to Bice before I go to Jem, actually, because I saw two things today. Now, number one was a screenshot of some sort of, but from early March, though, where apparently Roman Abramovich wasn't really happy with Todd Boehly, or with potentially selling to Todd Boehly's consortium. Is that a thing, Pice? Because I saw that screenshot today, but it was a screenshot from, I think, the 3rd of March or something like that.
It was a thing. I did tweet out. I can't remember. Was this? It may have been. I think it was actually before the sanctions. Was it before the sanctions? Because I think there was still rumors.
Came in, but it could be, because
I'm pretty
nearly a month ago now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that because obviously when he handed over to the stewards, I'm pretty sure then that there was loads of rumors about buyers coming in, and I think that's when it all kick-started with that tweet. Can't remember who it was from actually, but
probably fair what Adash said here in the comments. Probably more to do with Hans-Jörg Wyss than it is to do with Todd Boehly, considering the report was that Hans-Jörg Wyss doesn't like Roman Abramovich and kind of almost in spite of him wants to buy Chelsea from him. So I would understand that, but Roman kind of has bigger problems right now. But we'll get to those in a minute. But sorry, Pice, go on.
No, I'm just trying to come back to me. I'm just trying to find when and who I posted it. Oh, I found it. Okay, it was from Jacob Steinberg, and that was on the 8th of March, actually.
Okay.
Just said Roman Abramovich not sure about selling to Weiss and Boehly. That was literally all it was. So I don't know whether that was just I don't know. It's not much information there.
We haven't heard much in that direction since, so it's probably
it was
not
a bit
the
random.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And what other thing did I see today that I just wanted to highlight? Oh, yeah. Also, the fact that the whole Ricketts thing, like, I thought the report was that Raine or all of them don't really want any of the bidders, any of the candidates to really talk publicly. So why are the Ricketts consistently talking publicly and it seems to not really be a problem? Do you have any idea on that, Bryce?
I think it's because, like Matt Law said in the article after that, he said that presents a problem to the Ricketts because they kind of have to. Like, that's the only way they are going to win over the fans is by talking publicly. But it's kind of contradicting because if you're talking publicly and Raine and Chelsea don't like it, then surely that rules them out of the race. But then again, why have they then been shortlisted? Like, none of it really adds up to me. It's a bit confusing. Like, yeah.
It certainly is confusing. It certainly is. And Texas Blue, first of all, big up yourself. But yeah, the report was just that Hans-Jörg Wyss doesn't like Roman. That's it. And because Hans-Jörg Wyss doesn't like Roman, that's probably why Roman doesn't like Hans-Jörg Wyss. But I'm obviously not 100% sure. Jem, to take it back to you, the other two owners that for the time being, or the other, sorry, not owners, the other two bidders that for the time being by either UEFA or Premier League law couldn't actually buy the club, but theoretically could obviously sell their respective shares in Atalanta and Crystal Palace. Is there any chance you would find those interesting if those things were to happen, Jem? Or is it like for us, we've discussed this last week, kind of Todd Boehly or bust?
I don't really get how they passed the shortlist or got into the shortlist if there was implications to them, being part of the owners of this football club. If I had to talk about this with Pies actually before, but the whole thing of owning another football club and then trying to own another and only having a certain percentage, isn't it? From what I understand, you can only have a certain amount of a percentage in one
I think in
club.
the Premier League, you're not allowed to have any, but I think if it's UEFA, it's a little bit different. But then that raises the question, how does Red Bull exist? Do you know what I mean? RB Leipzig, RB Salzburg, they're playing the same competition. Like,
No, it don't make sense. Like I keep saying to you at the beginning of this, I just feel confused with the whole stuff, everything. I do. I don't really get what the categories are. I don't really understand how they've worked out the shortlist. I don't really get why it takes them so long. And I don't really get if that's. It's like what Pius just said. No, it's like contradiction. It's like one rule for one and not for the other. Is what I feel like with a lot of it. You look at the Saudi media group, and it was like, oh, we can't have them as shortlisted because it involves heavy debt. Them carrying a bit of heavy debt, which could proceed against the football club and cause issues down the line. But what makes it any different to the likes of someone like Todd Boehly, who, for example, was being spoken about taking potential loans out if he wins, taking potential loans out to pay or put him forward to this football club, which means he'll end up owing money to someone else. It's the same sort of thing. It's just debt. So I don't get that. What I'm trying to get is I don't really understand the shortlist. I don't really know the answer to why they're there. I know Todd Boehly and the Ricketts are sort of the favoured ones. The other two doesn't make sense to me. If it's to do with them owning another sports club and them having to sell it, have they told them they'll do that? I don't know. Have they agreed to that before? Priorly being shortlisted, maybe. I don't know. There's just so much that we're unsure on. There's lack of clarity in every corner of every initial bidder that's left in this shortlist that it just doesn't really make sense to me. All of it.
Not fair. I agree with you, mate. I agree with you. GD 111 said American Cubs fan here. Obviously, for people that are still unaware, the MLB club, the baseball team that the Ricketts do own in Chicago. These are not people we want owning our club, period. Besides the obvious racism that runs in that family, they do not care about the fans at all. Read about the Wrigley renovation. Is Wrigley what their stadium's called? And is Wrigley the chewing gum company? And is that why their stadium's called that? So that's already in it of itself, that's a no-go. I mean, I know I discussed previously, if they add a brand name to Stamford Bridge, I could deal with that. But if they get rid of Stamford Bridge and call it, like, I don't know, Sports Direct Arena, get in the bin. Do you know what I mean? Leave them alone. And Wrigley's, I mean, I guess maybe they hand out free chewing gum outside. That could be an advantage. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's a whole stinker. Let me get to something. And again, I'm not a political expert by any means. And I usually try to keep politics out of my streams as much as I can. But obviously, in this scenario, this is kind of unavoidable. But we need to discuss it regardless. So, the reports yesterday were that Mr. Roman Abramovich had been, suspected of having been poisoned alongside two Ukrainian peace negotiators, whoever they're. Uzmanov was one. No, Uzmanov is another. I forgot the name, but some name. Anyway, now there's very different reports from all over the world, right? So initially, this all came out from the Wall Street Journal, obviously from New York, which you would, in and of itself, think, all right, that's. Can't be that unserious, Wall Street Journal. But then now they're then the BBC reported it. Then some Donny at the BBC said, actually, the Ukrainians are saying this is not true. So nobody knows now. Then the Financial Times have now come in and said, actually, it is true. And Roman Abramovich went blind for a few hours and was treated in a hospital in Turkey, but it's fine again now. And apparently it was supposed to be a threat and not aiming to, kill, I guess. Well, I'm not sure if YouTube care if I say these words anyway. So not aiming to kill, but more of a threat. So who knows what's going on. But apparently, Abramovich doesn't really care, and will just keep doing what he's doing. He was also today present in peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine that were taking place in Istanbul. But also, even though it all came out yesterday, this alleged poisoning happened very early on, like the 3rd or 4th of March, very early in the peace negotiations, which is, why has it come out now? I don't know. Who does it benefit? Difficult. Like, could benefit a lot of different people. Could it be Ukraine trying to, again, just quickly throwing a few possibilities out there? Could it be Ukraine trying to cause havoc in Russia by, turning the oligarchs and Putin against each other? Could it be the Americans because they are now selling all their gas and oil to Europe, so they kind of want all of this stuff to continue, allegedly? Could it be, I don't know, just PR by Roman Abramovich so he gets unsanctioned? Could all be. I don't flipping know. But, I mean, I said it the other day, even before this poisoning stuff happened, I still wouldn't be completely shocked if Roman Abramovich in the end actually keeps the club. Again, because all these deadlines keep being pushed further. Like, initially we're meant to have the shortlist Friday a week ago. Then it took a week longer. And now it's like, okay, now, well, he got poisoned. Everybody's assuming, at least, it came from the, let's say Putin, not say the Russians overall. Let's Putin. So now that obviously he was sanctioned for having close ties to Vladimir Putin, which obviously, if he was poisoned by him, unlikely the best mate, isn't it? So could he then be unsanctioned? Who knows? Could that affect the sale? I don't know. But it's all a bit of a madness. Con, thank you for joining us. Obviously, we discussed a bit about the Ricketts already. I will get your thoughts on that in a little bit. But I'll start with you. This whole poisoning drug, it's mad, isn't it? Like, it feels like a Hollywood film. Like, how is this even a thing?
Yeah, bro. It honestly feels like a film. It doesn't feel like real life, does it? Like, when you see our some symptoms from poisoning, you're like, what? Like, there's no way that's real, but it is. It's crazy. I feel sorry for Roman because it seems like one side's trying to take him out, and the other side is sanctioning him. Like, he's not liked by either side at the moment. I feel kind of bad for him. I can't lie.
Honestly, like, gone.
Yeah, it's just crazy to see that, bro. Like, I got a lot of love for Roman, and to see stuff like that, man, it hurts. It really does.
It does, and it's just weird. Like, again, we don't know who necessarily, if it's true, we don't necessarily know who did it, so we can't just say, well, clearly he's not best mate to Putin, but it certainly doesn't look like it, does it? That's for damn sure. But the whole, essentially all of Western society, I guess, aside from America, because they haven't sanctioned him, but all the rest of Western society, especially Europe, has kind of just villainized the man. Now he's trying to make peace. I mean, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has said again, is this real? It's a bit mad. Like, apparently offered money to the Ukrainian army. What? That's mental. No surprise he's getting poisoned if that's true. Like, I'm not shocked, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But yeah. Clutch, let me take it to you. Do you think, I mean, you said it there is, you said 5%, who knows how much it is. But do you think this development could have effects on Roman selling the club or not selling the club? The big question also is, does Roman even have the time to not sell the club? Maybe he even wants to sell the club even without the sanctions because he's kind of like busy with other shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of unknown factors. I mean, if he wants to keep the club, they are taking their time with the sale process. So who knows? It could be a while before they sell it, and then maybe somewhere in between, Roman says, "Hey, take it off the market. I don't want to sell." I think that's a low percentage, mostly because, I mean, he seems like he's the kind of guy who he does what's best for the club, and him owning it for any longer, it's just depending on when the sanctions leave, because who knows what if the UK government will even take off the sanctions in any short amount of time, because Chelsea need a new owner, not because of his ties, but because they've decided that they want to stop Chelsea from making any money and we're not getting tickets to fans. We're uncertainty about buying and selling players, so there's a timer on that, and that's why Roman's pretty much pushing the sale of this, is because he doesn't want the club to fall into any more turmoil because of his past or what's happening to him. So I do think there is a percentage that he does keep it, and that's the one I'm hoping for. But distance chances still are harder to see, because especially like if he's been poisoned or whatnot. I mean, things are moving quite rapidly. Who knows? Like the future's so uncertain. It's going to be a big 3 or 4 months here for Chelsea and for Roman himself. It's all out in limbo in my mind.
Bloody hell, mate. It's already nearly April. Hopefully not 3 or 4 months.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a process. Whether Chelsea is sold within the next month is for the best, unless Roman keeps it and is unsanctioned. He can start getting the money flow back into it, and we can start selling tickets and all that. But it's all such a big unknown because, I mean, there's factors that we can't control, like Putin's mindset. Nobody knows that mindset at the moment. Nobody knows exactly what his intentions are. I mean, he's clearly wanting to do peace talks or else it wouldn't be happening. So, I mean, he's the ultimate ruler there. So if he didn't want some sort of talks happening, he'd just say, no, I'm done. I'm just going to keep doing what I do. But he clearly wants something.
Peace talks to avoid even more extreme sanctions while he's just doing his thing.
Yeah, but I think that the longer that means the sanctions, if that is the sanctions will inevitably come regardless. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but if they come later, they might affect his war list, I guess.
I think it's already done past that point. But who knows? I mean, I want whatever's best for the club. If that means selling it now rather than waiting to see what happens, that's kind of where I'm at. But ultimately, would I like Roma to keep it? Sure. But there's so many unknowns.
It's a tough one. Pies, let me take it to you. Obviously, just your thoughts really on the whole situation and whether you think it could or will have any impact on Chelsea's situation whatsoever.
Wait, what would happen in terms of what? What
just
situation?
The whole Roman getting poisoned and everything surrounding that, I suppose.
Well, I'm sure the players have potentially been told. I mean, if it's even true, like you said, there's a lot of possibilities where maybe it's not true, but I definitely believe he was. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll have an effect on Chelsea, to be honest, and the players. No, I think, especially because he's obviously not in life-threatening condition. It happened at the start of the month. It's not like a brand new report. It's just got revealed now. So, yeah.
It's just like I said. It just feels like a fucking movie, and not like real life. What's going on here? I mean,
I'm sorry, Lawrence. Can I make a point quickly? Just want to say, the source saying it's not true. So I apologise for my dog. Do keep in mind that he is a reporter for the BBC that is government owned. So just take that in consideration, people, when you're hearing about the guy who said, "Oh, it's not true." He's literally reporting for a government owned channel. So
very true, very true. I mean, yeah, Adar said this earlier. I just highlighted it because it was one of the things. Apparently, US intelligence have said that it could be environmental reasons, which is just the most random thing. Like, what environmental issues cause you to go blind for a few hours? Like, unless he was in Chernobyl and just walked into the flipping reactor thing, I doubt it. Like, do you know what I mean?
Bro,
I doubt it.
Hasn't mercury? It's like one of the only things that can do that, and hasn't that been banned for like 30 years? Since I was a kid, already. Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know, maybe it's the radiation, isn't it, or something? Who knows?
That's what I'm saying. So unless he's in Chernobyl, which I don't think he is, what environmental reasons could there be like that? I mean, they're talking about radiation things anyway. But no. I know, Adash. I'm not taking a piece out of you. I'm taking a piece out of their statement because sorry, what? I mean, they also talk. They only had water and chocolate. Well, have they thought about it could have been in the air? Considering he went blind, so I feel like if you eat something that's poisonous, I feel like it would affect other areas of your body rather than just your eyes. I don't know. Not an expert. Obviously, he also had skin on his face issues, whatever. But hey, here we are. But Jem, anything you would like to add to the whole poisoning stuff before we move on from that?
But really, what is there to say? You know, is it true? Is it not true? We're being told it is, then we're being told it ain't. You know, like I agree with what Con says in regards to BBC. They are, well, it wouldn't surprise me because the government is heavily linked with them anyway. So covering the coverings of certain news reports doesn't surprise you when it comes to English news. They only tell us what they want to tell us and not tell us the truth. So that's why I partially stay away from news anyway, because there's never any real sense to it, in all honest. But, you know, at the end of the day, he's in a really horrible situation. You know, at the end of the day, he's been sanctioned by this country because of his ties with Putin.
I thought you were going to stop that word after T. I was like, a bit hard.
I'm sorry, you can probably hear from my voice. I'm not too well at the moment, but you know, he's struggling to get my words out. Do you know what I mean? He's been sanctioned by this country because of his links to Putin, and then, you know, you're hearing that he's in Israel, but he's been talks with Ukraine, but then you don't hear any confirmation of it. Then you hear Zelensky come out and tell the US government to not sanction him, and then you're hearing now that he went to Moscow to hold, you know, be the middleman of the peace talks to try and make them work well and try and get this all sort of not squashed, but, you know, at least some sort of common grounds moving forward. and then he's getting supposedly poisoned in Moscow by his supposed own people, because some of the people in Russia want the war to continue and have done him over, and he went blind. And, you know, now he's still continuing to try and negotiate peace talks between the two. And in all of that, you look at it and you just think to yourself, like, what? You look at our government and you're just like, what have they actually done to help Ukraine? You know, they've sanctioned this guy, but they haven't done anything themselves to try and.
They've refused all, basically, for a while at least. I think maybe they've revoked that, but initially they refused all the Ukrainian refugees. They still keep buying oil and gas from Russia. Like, what have you actually done other than sanction a few oligarchs? Like,
we sanctioned Roman Abramovich. You know, the people of Ukraine are watching the news and are joyous over the victory of Roman Abramovich not being able to hold Chelsea Football Club anymore. Like, I don't know. I just think it's more than just Roman Abramovich, you know. And I do think that he still has negotiations in the selling of his club. I know there's a lot of people that feel that he's not picking and choosing. I don't think it's a blatant pick and choose where it goes to him directly. But I still think if the football club are involved and Bruce Buck and Marina are making decisions, so-called, like we're being told, then you'd assume that there's something called a phone where they talk to each other about the certain bidders that are coming in, and maybe he's pointing them in the direction where he thinks maybe it should go behind that. I don't know, but it's all up in the air, isn't it? We'll have to see.
It is. And just to quickly mention that by Joy Boy saying, what about the MP who said it was all lies? That Roman was not at any peace talks and not Sky reporting, and he still hasn't took back what he said. Well, he hasn't said
Chris
take back any of the outrageous things that he said. But unfortunately, this is just politicians' agendas being drawn out on the back of people, whether it's an individual like Roman Abramovich in this case, whether it's people as in not helping the Ukrainians as much as you could, or whether it's other things, whether it's the whole Brexit stuff that was, you know, taken out on the back of the British people, and, you know, them being given false information to just sway votes and shit. Like, that's unfortunately how politics goes. But
and can I just make a quick point on this guy as well? This guy as well also was a guy who voted on an illegal war. He was in favour of it. And it's also a guy who made nearly £1 million from selling homes that got paid for by taxpayers. So this guy is a scumbag himself. So how he can call anyone out just makes me laugh. He's a scumbag. Like, shut up.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Absolutely couldn't agree more. It's just the whole situation that we're in. I mean, someone said earlier, what's more likely, Chelsea to be sold by the summer, Ferrari winning the constructors? Now, I still do think Chelsea should be sold by the summer. I can't lie, just because I do expect that to happen. But I'm just saying both happens. Come on, boys. But yeah, shall we move on to some football talk? Now, number one, unlike Austria, United States have actually qualified for the World Cup with a hat-trick from Christian Pulisic. 2 were a pen, but 2 pens in the same game, never easy. But it was also Panama. So, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it was Panama. Let's not, Panama, right? Again, Panama. Like, let's not, he scored a hat-trick, come on, the boys. It's Panama. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on. But the last goal was still good, even if he was a bit lucky with the first touch, but still good. So fair play to him. Also, well done to Canada for qualifying for the first time in, 40 odd, 60 odd years, whatever it was, 38 years, is it? So fair play to them too. Not fair play to Austria, but here we are. Timo Werner. He's decided to do Lukaku. Now I'm taking a piss. But he's decided to give an interview in which he said, yeah, here in Germany, just get more chances. And maybe the game just suits me better. I'm like, maybe it's also because you played Israel and not Premier League opponents. But sure, each to their own. But apparently he now wants to leave. And my thoughts on this is simply brilliant. Great, fantastic. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's exactly what I wanted to hear, because that means we can, if he wants to leave, much easier to like do, much less of a problem. The fact that his wages are so high, do you know what I mean? Like, much less of an issue. And also, apparently, the reports are if we're going to get more than £33 million or 40 million euros, Chelsea are going to be okay with selling him. I'm like, it's also a reasonable number. That's a number that I think we can make from him, but it's not a number that's outrageously high that it's going to stop a sale happening. So, you know, I appreciate that. And Chester, yeah, it is very true. It's very true to convert 2 penalties in one game in World Cup qualifiers. Actually, I'm not sure if he had 2 pens in the same game in the qualifiers, because he missed 1 in each game against Switzerland, actually. But at least that's Jan Sommer goal and not the Panama goalkeeper who no one's ever heard of. So still a bit different. But like I said, you know, I respect it. Fair play to Pulisic. But again, it's Panama. All right. When you played Canada, you got battered. So, you know, and Canada isn't exactly good at football either. Do you know what I mean? Like, but here we are. Still better than Austria, though. But who do I start with? Why don't I start with Pice? Why don't I start with you, Pice? Timo Werner, thoughts, and have I potentially missed any of the news, or have I explained everything that there is?
No, you explained everything. And it was also a very good source as well. Patrick Berger is very, 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 very good for Germany news. As you can tell by me saying very so many times. But yeah, he was quite consistent with the Haaland stuff in the summer as well. So overall, he's a pretty good source. And I mean, above £33 million, I mean, I don't think we'll get the full 50 million back, but yeah, that would be a good price. But to be honest with you, it's a bit weird, like talking about transfer still, because like I don't really know what price you can expect, because Mourinho might not actually be the negotiator anymore. So we'll have to see on that. But obviously, the report that he personally wants to leave is probably true. I mean, why wouldn't you? He hardly plays, and he's been moaning in Germany that, you know, he's been taking shots at our system and things like that. So yeah, fine if he wants to leave. He's just not good enough to be a consistent starter, and obviously he's still young enough to want to be a starter somewhere else and score loads of goals. So yeah, perhaps go back to Germany. I'm sure he'll score a lot of goals. But for me, it's like the same thing with like Tammy Abraham, right? Like both these guys just didn't really suit our style of play and weren't really good enough for Thomas Tuchel. But now everyone's saying, "Oh, Tammy should come back if he score it because he's scoring loads in Serie A." I'm just like, well, Werner will probably do the same. It doesn't mean we should get him back as well. Like, I don't know. I thought our fans have been a bit weird on that lately, but
Tammy was way better at Chelsea than Timo Werner ever was.
Yeah, sure, but like I've seen people say like pay the 68 million release clause and all that and get him back.
Nice.
I'm just like if you Tammy, like I don't think he wanted to leave, but obviously he didn't really fit into Tuchel's plans. It's just going to be the same with Werner. Like, it's absolutely clear. So yeah, I have no problem with people leaving the club, to be honest with you, if they want to leave.
There you go. No, I couldn't agree more. Just to not make it all take too long, I'll stick with you for this question, Python, and I'll ask everybody those 2 questions combined, I guess. Now, obviously, I understand what you said in terms of it's weird talking about transfers because we don't know. Number one, currently we're still under sanctions and couldn't make transfers. So unless a sale happens by the summer or sanctions are lifted by the summer, we can't actually make signings. But say we will be able to. Obviously, the report at the moment out of Rafinha might be going to Barcelona, is it? So if not Rafinha, is it just Dembele as that option that probably could replace Werner? How do you see that? Because if Werner goes, we'll need to replace him. It's not just, I mean, Broja might stay, but Werner plays more on the wing than a striker anyway. So Broja wouldn't come back because Werner leaves, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, again, though, with Rafinha and Dembele, they're both on the right-hand side, and Werner usually plays on the left when he plays. So it's a bit of a weird one. Rafinha, for me, as much as I like him, having him and Ziyech in the same team just doesn't make sense at all. Like, it just, just doesn't make sense. It's such a typical current Chelsea move. And I think with Dembele, I don't know. I'm still worried a little bit about his injury record. I mean, he's a fantastic player, but I kind of get the feeling that he might stay at Barca now. I don't know. He's just doing really well lately. You know, his best mate Aubameyang's just joined them, so that can influence things. So I'm not really sure who would join to replace Werner.
But just the fact that if they sign Rafinha, surely they would only do that if Dembele leaves, because they've got so many wingers now.
I don't know, bro. Barca are weird though. Like, Barca
That
don't
is
really
true.
make any sense. Kind of like us sometimes. They'll just sign players even though we've got others, and just yeah. I don't know.
Can I just ask you, why exactly do you think Rafinha and Ziyech in the same team makes no sense?
Because they're just similar style of players. Like they're both left-footed. They're both like very, very one-dimensional, in my opinion. I don't know. Like they're just. I'd just rather have one or the other. Rafinha's a bit more of a dribbler. He's quicker, but they're still the similar player for me. Like they both like to take a lot of risks. So yeah, they both like to shoot a lot. Like they're just too similar for me. It doesn't make stylistic sense to have two of similar player in the same squad. You know, and if he's a left winger, then it's different. But you know, he primarily plays on the right, and even though Ziyech is sometimes playing on the left, he's clearly not great there. So it just doesn't really make much sense to me.
Yeah, but you know, if Rafinha's better than Ziyech, then you just have both, I guess. But I mean, but just because he's much more of a dribbler and pace rather than Ziyech, who is the special passer, which, as far as I'm aware, Rafinha isn't. But the heavily left-footed is certainly true. All 9 of his goals this season have been with left foot. No right foot goals, no heading goals. I mean, heading, fair enough. But I do see that. On Dembele, though, I do think Dembele doesn't really matter to him whether he plays on the left or right, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But fair, I mean, a lot of people in the chat were talking about Serge Gnabry, who, of course, at this moment in time hasn't extended a contract at Bayern Munich yet. But I don't think it runs out this summer. I think it runs out the season after. But that's just a guy people want, right? It's not like we've been linked to anyone, have we, Pies? We haven't been linked to Gnabry, have we? It's just someone that people.
Oh no,
want.
no. I think Fabrizio, the main one he was saying was that we wanted Rafinha. That was pretty much it.
There you go. There you go. Jem, why don't I take it to you? Timo Werner. I mean, I know you're a big fan of his. On his way out, I presume happy about that, if that is to be believed, shall we say?
Yeah, I think Timo Werner's time at Chelsea's pretty much done. You can only just look at how many games he's played this season. I think he's played less games than any of our other forwards this season, you know, and when he has played, he hasn't really contributed to much. I think he struggles to fit in the way that we play. I also do think, and this ain't to stick up for him, but I also do think that we play him in a position that's just not suited for him. When you play him out on the left and you ask him to hold it, then you've just ruined his game. For me personally, I think with Timo Werner, he needs to be sort of a second striker and have the movement of an actual focal point, someone that can hold the ball up and like link, you know, and do things. But, you know, look, at the end of the day, I think his time's done. I think he knows himself that he's not really fit into the Tuchel system and the way that he needs to work. He probably will go somewhere else and he'd probably bang in goals, you know, if they play to his strengths. But for us, I think we need more versatility. I think we need more people, more players that are able to adapt to different systems. And when I look at Timo Werner, but not only Timo Werner, maybe one of 2 or 3 of our forwards, I think they're very narrow in the way that they play the game. You know, you have to play to a certain style to get the best out of them. If you don't, then they seem to struggle to adapt to different types. And we know Tuchel, as a manager, since he's been here, likes to adapt into different systems and have players that have the ability to adapt also. I just don't think our forwards, well, for me, Kai Havertz and Mason Mount are probably the only 2 people for me that can adapt to different systems that Tuchel wants, personally. The others, I don't think can do it. And I'd even throw Cho in there as well. But yeah, that's Timo Werner.
Yeah.
Think about it. We always play, we've tried the 4, we've played the 3. You know, you got to think when you first come in, we were stuck with the 3-4-3, and you know, Havertz and Mount were very good in that. You know, beginning of the season they started off okay, then sort of dropped off. We know that the consistency thing is a bit an issue, but they're young and it can happen. But when you look at someone like Werner,
probably no matter the formation as long as
Oh
you
yeah,
play him
fuck
as some
Pulisic.
sort
Yeah,
of
I
left
mean,
side.
yeah.
would be
But then
okay.
again, Pulisic is someone that you have to play in a certain position as well. I think he's great, but I think he needs to play off the left. If you play him anywhere else, then you don't see the best of Pulisic. So again, very limited in his positional sense, I think.
One thing that someone mentioned in the chat, and I have seen it today as well, although cannot remember for the life of me the source, so I can't tell you how legit or not legit that is. But what we do know is that Paulo Dybala is or will be leaving Juventus as a free agent this summer after, well, initially there were negotiations, and then Juve took back their offer that Dybala hadn't agreed to already and gave him a much worse offer. And he was like, well, what are you doing? And then Maurizio Arrivabene, the former Ferrari team boss, and now for some reason, some sort of position at Juve, has said, yeah, he's leaving. So, I mean, in terms of positional similarity between Dybala and Timo Werner, I guess I could see that logic where it's kind of like, well, you're not sure what position is he, because is he a 10? Is he not Timo, but for Dybala, is he a 10? Is he a winger? Is he a striker? Is he a second striker? No one knows. He's none of those things, really. Only thing we know is he looks 13, even though somehow he's 28. But Dybala is someone you'd be at all interested in, Jem?
Not for me. I know there's lots of talks about some of the Chelsea fans on Twitter timeline are bigging him up, saying he would fit this system perfectly. I think he would struggle with the physicality of the Premier League. He does have good movement. He's him on the ball as a player. He's not bad. I don't think he's the type of player to work hard enough and work in the way that Tuchel wants him to. And again, I don't know whether he'd be able to adapt his game into different systems as well. And again, look, the Italian league, and we've seen it, the Italian league and the Premier League at the moment is chalk and cheese. It is very demanding, and you've seen players come and go to these leagues. And I just feel that Dybala, for me, I see Dybala playing in La Liga. I don't know why. I just see him just going to like Atletico Madrid or something, and they're doing quite well out there.
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes PSG. If
PSG, yeah, but for me, like my first choice, I'm not going to lie, was Rafinha. I actually think he's better than Ziyech personally, and that's only because I just feel that he has more to his game than what Ziyech has. Again, I think Ziyech's very narrow-minded in the way that he plays, but with Rafinha, he's kind of the player that when he gets the ball, he will, he's got the capability to run at players and drag players towards him, which then creates spaces for other, and he has the ability to beat players, but also has the eye to play balls quickly and behind as well, and he can contribute to goals, and I think a player like Rafinha at his age coming in this team with the young boys that we already have in Mount and Havertz, and being managed by, for me, the best manager at managing players in the world at the moment, I think you'd see a more improved Rafinha. The issue we've got with Rafinha at the moment is at Leeds, it's counter, but with Chelsea,
his pace so much anymore.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's completely a little bit different, and we have more ball possession as well, don't we? We dominate games like 80% of the game. You know what I mean? I think he will be heavily more involved, and you'll see more of someone like Rafinha in the Chelsea team than maybe you do at Leeds. But what I've seen at Leeds, I think he's a good player, and he's already played in the Premier League. So, if we can get it done, then get it done. I just don't think there's many options out there, Laurenz. You take him out of it. He's talking about Dembele. I'm not the biggest fan of Dembele. I can see him going to PSG as well. Potentially, he's been talking to him going there. But then after him, you're scratching your head, aren't you? Who else can come in and play for this football club?
Well, I mean, I'm sure we'd find someone like a Serge Gnabry, for example, but those deals would then be a bit more difficult to pull off than, say, on a free, Dembele, or a player from a slightly lesser club, which might also get relegated. By the way, if Leeds stay up, Rafinha is very expensive to buy a 25-year-old whose highest level to have played at is a Premier League relegation fight. Like 75 million for a player that's not played at a high level that's higher than Premier League relegation fights is a lot of money. So if they get relegated, it will certainly be something to talk about. But if they don't get relegated, I'm not so sure.
I think they can negotiate that, though, can't they? You see
if he is available for less, that's a different
he end up getting him for 50. We've seen it with Ben Chilwell. Leicester done the same thing. So it can be a case of that we can get the right price for him. It's just that as this whole sanctioning thing and everything sort of mucked us up a bit, you know. But you know, this apparently I read something on the timeline that we're even though we're not allowed to do any negotiations, apparently in the backgrounds they're already sorting out their targets and contracts and whatever else, so that once it does get taken over, it's going to be a bit of a quick bang. But I don't know. We have to see what happens.
We will have to see what happens. I mean, on Dybala, I'll go to Con with that now. But on Dybala, I actually think that I'm not sure I'd want Dybala for injuries, for lack of consistency, but I do think that Dybala was probably at the worst club he could have possibly been at. With the abilities that he has to play for Juve, is probably the worst place to be. Like, he's amazing technically. He can shoot, but he isn't as fast as FIFA made us believe for a few years until they dropped his pace the last couple of seasons. So he isn't actually that quick. Meaning playing for Juve, who just parked the bus and then counter-attack against everyone in Serie A, basically. Even against bloody relegation teams, that's what they do half the time. That's probably the worst team for him to be at. So if he was at a better team, I reckon he would be a million times better. But I also think that ship might have sailed. And I think we've got to be careful now with how many left-footed players we're signing. I'm not usually, because for years, like 2 years ago, we didn't have a single left-footed player in the whole team before we signed Havertz and Ziyech and Lukaku. We basically had no left-footed players. And now, like in the front line, obviously we always had Alonso and, you know, whoever else. Well, before we signed Chilwell, we only had Alonso and Emerson. But if it's Werner that goes and we replace it with another left-footed player, Pulisic and Callum and Mason, I guess, if you include him in the front three, are the only right-footed players we have. Like, there's Lukaku, Havertz, Ziyech, a potential Rafinha. Oh, sorry, that's my alarm on my phone. I do apologize. There's a bit too many left-footed players. But, Con, let's take it all the way back to Timo Werner, whether you'd be happy with him leaving, whether you're okay with that price from which we'd accept it. And then, you know, your preferences about potential replacements, a Rafinha, a Dybala, whatever else. What do you think about the whole thing, Con?
So with the Werner thing, it did annoy me. I can't lie. I saw it. I don't think it's as bad as Lukaku's. I think they're very different situations, but it really did annoy me because you scoring against Israel, and now you're talking crap. Like, mate, you're awful at football. Like, we have to watch you, and you're technically so poor. You miss chances for us. You can't control football, and like, so don't you dare talk bad about Chelsea or try to imply that it's our fault that you're technically flawed, because it's not our fault. It's yours. Like, this league, this team, it's not for you, Fairs. But shut up, Timo. Like, we back him all the time, and then that's why players just need to shut up at times. Like, if you're playing bad, just hold that. Like, don't try to blame someone else. It's your own fault. You know, it's not our fault Lukaku's arse. It's not our fault Timo Werner's arse, is it? It's their fault. You know, they're getting paid ridiculous amount of money. Like, Timo's on over 200k a week. Yeah. Like, Timo's on over 200k a week, and he can't control football. Like, what do you mean? Oh, I get more chances here. Well, yeah, because you play in Israel, man. Like, who do we play in the Premier League that's an easy game these days? Everyone in the Prem is annoying. There's not one game that I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to this, unless it's Tottenham, you know?
Or Norwich, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, or Norwich, yeah. Mason Mount loves the game of versus Norwich, didn't he? But, yeah, so the funny thing annoyed me, and he can happily go. I've backed him for long enough, but I'm just going to call a spade a spade. He's just not good. I don't know what more I can add to that. I just don't think he's a good footballer. So yeah, he can go. I'm not really asked if Timo leaves. He's a great guy. Like, his personality and all that, he's really likable, but he's just not a good footballer, you know.
And also, if he leaves, the amount of wages he can free up, so I'm even more of a fan.
Exactly, and if it's new owners, bro, I don't think they'll care about making a little bit of a loss on him either.
Yeah.
So, but apparently, I saw that Dortmund are very interested, and they've already made their intentions known to Chelsea. So that could be good.
That could be good. Maybe we'll just get rid of Lukaku at the same time, and apparently PSG might be interested, and we just swoop in for Erling Haaland. Do you know what I mean? Because apparently, well, according to Twitter sources, I've not read it anywhere else, but apparently he's turned down Man City. Barcelona can't afford shit, according to their own boss. And Real Madrid, I still don't believe that they're going to get Haaland and Mbappe. And I think they're going to get Mbappe. So where's Haaland going to go then?
To be fair, I'm not going to lie. I don't want Haaland at Chelsea.
No, same. Since Lukaku, I don't trust anyone anymore.
Yeah, Kai Havertz is that guy for me now. I think we made a mistake in the summer by getting Lukaku. Kai Havertz should be trusted. Hence, that's going to bring me on to Dybala, where I don't see where he fits. I think he's a great player. I think he's technically fab. I do like him, but I just struggle to see where he fits in this Chelsea system. I don't know. Could play with Havertz up top, but I don't know. When we're playing with 2 strikers, I don't think we play as well. So, for me, I don't know. 4-3, I probably would take it. I trust Tuchel to manage to fit a player like Dybala in. He's good enough to do it, but I just struggle to see where he fits. And quickly on Rafinha as well. It's a shame he's going Barca because I like him. Like, it looks like he will go Barca. I do like Rafinha. I think he's a great player. I don't think he's quite better than CH Gem. I won't go that far. But I think he is a tidy player. I really do. And he is wasteful, yeah, but he's a creative player. Creative players are wasteful. CH is wasteful, you know. People say Bruno Fernandes is wasteful, yes, because he's a creative player. Kevin De Bruyne has lost the ball more times than any other midfielder this season, you know. He's wasteful, but he's also exceptionally creative. So it'd be nice. And the left-footed thing don't really bother me, bro. We went so many years without a left footer. I'm happy to take as many left footers as possible now, bro. I'm happy. I'm all for it, you know.
Yeah, I just think it's important to have a mix.
We have a mix, bro. Like Pulisic's basically 2-footed anyway. Kai is basically 2-footed anyway.
Don't let RD from the chat fool you into thinking that, bro.
Bro, if you look back at like last year, year before, you see me.
But he can't do anything else with his left foot.
I don't know about that, bro.
That pass to Mason Mount that Mason Mount missed with his left foot. Don't forget that.
Yeah, Laurenz, hold that. All right.
Yeah, but no one said Mason Mount's 2-footed. You only said it about.
No. I said that pass to Mason Mount was with his left foot in the Carabao Cup final.
Oh yeah, it was, to be fair. Yeah, okay, fair.
And then he had the cross to Kai Havertz with his left foot. He is a left-footed player. He is a both-footed player, but I don't know how good it.
Yeah, and that's why I'd be like a fan of Rafinha. I said,
all right, like you know.
Pedro was extremely 2-footed. That's like I think he went underrated with that quality. But like I would be happy to get a right-sided player as well because we've only have CH, who's naturally a right-sided right now. We don't have anyone else, and I hate Kai when he's there. I know he can play there, but I hate Kai on the right. I really do. So if we got Rafinha as well, that's good because we got 2 there. Then we have Pully, who's going to be that prioritised for that left-hand side. Which, thank you, that's what all of us want because we know how good he can be there. We also have Callum as well. He gets more minutes. So that's good. That's good. Why is Jim giving me that face? Let's give me that face.
No, I'm laughing at this guy.
I was scared when you said Callum. I just went like that. I was like,
I
don't know what to think of Callum anymore.
What even is going on? I'll go to clutch with this now, but I will just say one thing on Dybala. I actually think that if we stuck to the formation that we have, this 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1, I actually think that's probably Dybala's best formation because he's not a real winger because he's not quick. He's not a real striker. A second striker maybe, but he's not a real striker. And he's not a real 10 either. So I think this inside 10 forward role that our, 3-4-3 creates is probably arguably Dybala's best position, I will say. And also he's a bit, like Ziyech loves a good shot, but Ziyech takes a bit too much time. One thing Dybala is good at is doing a Messi or a Robin, getting the ball at the edge of the box and just hitting it far corner. The amount of even if they don't always go in, I like the fact that he tries that as often as he does. So that's, but I don't want us to use that formation. Hence why I don't want us to.
Could you just repeat what you just said again?
Formation wouldn't have.
Could you just say what you just said again, please? I don't think I heard it correctly.
What do you think I said?
Did you say something about CH? It takes too long.
Yeah.
Brighton, Tottenham.
Look at all the nice goals he scored. Look at all the nice goals he scored. He only scores them when he has loads of time. Spurs gave him loads of time. He had the time to shoot.
Brighton, he didn't have
He scored his nice goal against, who did we play? Middlesbrough the other week. Was it Middlesbrough? I think so. Loads of time on the ball. He's great at shooting, but he only goes for the shot when he has time. And I think Dybala pulls the trigger a bit quicker.
I don't really agree with that, Laurenz, but anyway, I'll let Clutch talk. I'll let Clutch speak.
I mean, you don't have to agree. It's fair. It's fair.
I've got to shoot, bro. I've got to go. Yeah, I'll see you later.
There you go. Hey, Jem, I appreciate you very much. Everybody subscribe to Jem. Links down in the description. Cheers, Jem.
See you later, guys. Take care. Big up.
Let me get to you, mate. Timo Werner. Obviously, none of us have really exactly been out. Oh yeah, sorry. Before I let you say that, actually, you say that, and I'll say my piece after. Timo Werner, thoughts triggered by the interview at all, or just happy he's, leaving essentially?
I think the interview is a little bit different. I think you can kind of say the same thing because I mean Pulisic almost said the same thing when he was on international break. Basically, I'm not playing in the same position that I would like to play, but maybe that's why I don't get the chances I get. But I don't think Timo Werner's problem is he isn't getting chances. He's getting chances and missing them. He's just not clinical enough, and he's not good enough on the ball. So for me, he just plays in a league that doesn't suit him. The Premier League will never fit Timo Werner. It's just that's how it is. He's not technically gifted enough that if there's a low block, he can do something to get out of the low block. He just needs the space in behind. And if you're only going to be playing Liverpool, City, and I don't know, United every once in a while, even though they play low blocks most of the time these days. He's not worth it, and I don't want to keep a player around for 200K who is only good against two teams and
270 or 290 or like he's on mad money.
Yeah, I think that's silly. I do think he's a good player in his own right with the things that he does well, but technically he's just not for the Premier League. And what I always say is what's best for the players, I think what's best for the club as well. And for him, leaving is the best option because one, frees up cap space for us, and two, he just doesn't help us when he's on the field. And I know a lot of Chelsea fans love him because of him, but there's a point when you got to understand, like, the guy's just not good enough for us. Like, when things aren't perfectly suited for him, he struggles and he puts down terrible performances, but he might have one assist or something. That's just not good enough. It's not good enough for a team that has aspirations to win the league, the Champions League, multiple years. So as far as that goes, I don't think, for me, Timo Werner leaving is that big of a deal. I mean, I pretty much was under no...
I think it's a great deal.
Yeah.
Finally, it's gone.
And now it's just, I know Lukaku's being talked about with PSG. Who knows if that happens? I don't know. But there's a lot of things. For me, Timo Werner, thank you, but have a good time back in Germany where you're probably going to do a lot better than you would here.
There you go. I'll ask you about potential replacements as well in a second. I just want to go back to the whole interview thing and also what comes out. I personally, I wasn't like triggered by it, and I found it quite funny when Monstone on Twitter likened it to Lukaku's interview because I'm like, nah, absolutely not. Now, number one, he said different things. He said, it just suits me better. Nothing wrong with saying the style at Germany suits him better than at Chelsea. Because he didn't say whether he didn't say that because he's too shit for playing our style at Chelsea, but that's the fact, right? Lukaku would never say that. Timo Werner probably is aware of that. I can't lie. Timo Werner doesn't look like the guy's like, oh, everything's just wrong here. I would actually be right. Don't think Timo Werner is as stupid as that. I think he's well aware that he's not that good. But also, big difference. Timo Werner has been here for nearly 2 seasons now, and it hasn't worked. Fair enough if you say, oh, things aren't working for me and it's probably better to leave. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that after nearly 2 years. No problem with that whatsoever. And also, he wasn't injured when saying it. So none of this, in my opinion, likens to Lukaku's interview whatsoever at all. Number one, not only here for 5 months. Number two, not injured. Number three, not arrogant. So get in the bin, Lukaku. But see, that's what happens when people now bring Lukaku up with Werner. I just get angry at Lukaku again, even though what they wanted to do is get me angry at Timo Werner. So now I'm angry at your boy again. So unlucky that. But here we are. Clutch. Potential replacements for Timo Werner. Obviously, Rafinha is looking less likely now with that thing, move to Barcelona looking, I guess, ever more likely, which is obviously where we have the problem with our sanctions right now because we don't know when or if we can buy players, so we can't even make sure we get into negotiations kind of early. Do you know what I mean? But your thoughts on, obviously we've discussed Dembele back in January, but your thoughts on Rafinha, Dembele, Dybala, potentially somebody else, what do you think?
It's an interesting one. I mean, currently I don't know because who knows what formation we want to play next year. There are a lot of things we need depending on the formation we want to play. We got some players coming back that we don't know exactly where we want to put them at the moment. Because if Lukaku stays, where are we going to put Broja? That's going to be a problem. Conor Gallagher, we already have midfielders as it is. Things that I think just depend on how
we have midfielders.
Yeah, we have Kovacic, Ziyech, Mason Mount, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Kante.
They are midfielders, bro.
I mean, yeah, but no, Ziyech I wouldn't include in that in the first place. But Loftus-Cheek, if Loftus-Cheek is not going to stand in the way of Gallagher. Like, I love Ruben, but we're not going to decide to not keep Gallagher because of Ruben.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
my
and
point
Omar
of
too, like,
if we play this formation where we have 2 midfielders and we have 5 midfielders, we just don't know that. So
yeah.
we also know we're looking into a DM, a holding DM, so we can do that kind of thing. That's one of the biggest rumors we keep hearing. I know Pius doesn't like that formation, but we keep hearing it because it sounds like Thomas Tuchel wants it. Barcelona, for me, just love to talk. I mean, they said, "Hey, we're going to go get Erling Haaland." You're not going to get Erling Haaland. I'm sorry.
But then, to be fair, their president said the other day that they cannot afford these prices that are talked about for Haaland and Mbappe at all. So, if anything, publicly, they've kind of ruled themselves out of that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but they'll always come out and it'll probably be something like, "Oh yeah, we just don't have the money to buy it," but they'll say, "Oh no, it wasn't that. The players just rejected us or something." It would be covered from them. I do think Dembele will probably stay at Barcelona if he decides to take a pay cut, and if not, I think he'll go to PSG with Mbappe leaving. I don't know. It's weird because Rafinha was honestly my first pick, but there's so much unknown with the club because who knows how the sale of the club will even attract players. Maybe players will be like, the uncertainty of the club, a new owner, who knows how they're going to treat it. Maybe that'll like push away some some potential talent, but Rafinha is probably the one I would go with. I wouldn't go with Dybala because, I mean, he's been injured like the last year and a half. Like, he's played like 5 or 6 games or something like that in the last year and a half. So, pretty much the same reason why I wouldn't want Dembele as the injury record. But for me, I think Rafinha would probably be the best choice.
Yeah, there's one thing that I want to highlight now as the last thing to discuss before we round it out here is a very interesting tweet I saw today by Simon Johnson, which was basically Chelsea's record transfers adjusted for inflation, which is very interesting. Now, I'm not sure if this inflation calculator is spot on, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. And are we talking about the global inflation, or are we talking about football market inflation, which has been applied there? Because I feel like the actual inflation hasn't gone as extreme as that Shevchenko was actually worth 114. The football market inflation potentially, but the actual global inflation, but maybe I'm missing something here. But still, Pice, because you haven't said anything in a long time, I presume you saw that. Did that surprise you too that Shevchenko was top of that list all of a sudden?
No, I've not seen it actually, but I mean, a lot of them on there. I mean, I don't know, like Chris Sutton and that, to be honest. They're not from my era, but Drogba would have been crazy from Marseille, 94 million. Shevchenko, yeah, to be honest, I don't really know how this works, to be honest. Like, I saw it for the all-time Premier League one, and supposedly Shearer would have been 222 million. I'm just like, how's that worked out then? It's crazy.
Well, just with how much money was worth then compared to what it's worth now. But again, I'm not sure if they did inflation within the football market or within just economy, global economy or UK economy, just full stop ever since then, I guess. But still crazy to think when you look at it that way, especially like Shevchenko is somewhat surprising, but obviously when we signed him, he was literally the best striker in Europe. Torres, sure, we signed him injured, but kind of Roman kind of roped us into that one a little bit. We didn't really need Torres, let's be honest. But Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, first of all, if I'm being perfectly honest with you guys, I had no idea we got him from Atletico Madrid. Not a single clue did I have about that. And number two, did I have no idea that he cost this much money? Like, obviously, he didn't cost this much money back then. But still, let me actually check how much money Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank to Chelsea transfer fee. Let's see how much he actually cost back then. £15 million in the year 2000. Apparently, in 2022, would have been £104.1 million. Isn't that mad? Isn't that mad?
Carvalho on there as well. He was an insane player for us.
He was. Seems somewhat reasonable, at least. Do you know what I mean?
He's worth 80 million, unlike Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
Carvalho and JT, bro. Like, I remember watching highlights of those two. Carvalho scored some great goals as well.
There you go. He did. I don't even know when Chris Sutton joined Chelsea. Like, when did that happen?
What about Essien as well? Essien was unbelievable, bro. I remember that goal against Arsenal in 2006. One of my iconic goals. Then, unfortunately, the Barcelona screamer, yeah.
1999,
Yeah.
Laurenz. He came from Blackburn, if I'm not mistaken.
Who?
Chris Sutton. I think it was 99.
He came from Blackburn, but I don't know what year it was.
Yeah, I think it was 99, bro, because I think Fiali was manager, if I'm not wrong.
It was 99. I just looked it up.
Hey, look at that. Came for one season, it was bang average, even though the season before it was brilliant. Typical Chelsea striker, that, isn't it?
And he was great afterwards, too.
With inflation brought into it, we paid 80 million.
I think, if I'm not wrong,
one season.
The season he left afterwards, wasn't he top goal scorer or near enough top goal scorer when he left?
So for Blackburn, he had 130 appearances, 47 goals. For Chelsea, he had 28 appearances, 1 goal, and then he went to Celtic and had 130 appearances for 63 goals.
Fuming.
Oh, yeah.
We just can't escape the striker curse, can we?
No. I'm just trying to look at this Dybala thing. I'm not sure what you read here, Clutch, but he's played 29 games this season.
I was exaggerating how many games he didn't, or how many games he played.
Like 29 games is, I would say, like how many of our forwards have played 29 games? I would say probably none of them. But obviously, this doesn't specify. Well, I can go detailed, but here it didn't specify how many of those were starts. I suppose. Does it say here how many were starts? It doesn't. See, that's the part I don't know. So I don't know if he necessarily started or not. But he certainly has had a lot of injury problems. Like that is certainly true. But yeah, anybody else want to throw something in there about these random like inflation adjusted?
Well, I was just going to say on Dybala quickly. I mean, the conversation we was having already about how do we fit him in, like this is the exact point why the new owners, whoever they are, need to employ football-related people at the board. Like we've signed so many players over the years that just haven't fit our system or have changed the manager, and then you haven't thought long term. So even though Dybala's a good player, he's 28. Like you'd have to plan for like next 3-4 seasons of him, and can you do that? Like it has to be properly planned. So that's why I'm hoping that under a new owner, some of the board changes. I think the Daniel Finkelstein guy is really interesting as well because he has worked with football data and he's obviously a part of Todd Boehly's bid. But I'm not sure if any owners that come in will actually hire a director of football. Will they know who to employ? Like it's one of the big debates you can make out of any potential signings for the summer.
Sounds like we're bringing back Danny Drinkwater. Lovely.
I'm pretty sure his contract runs out this summer, doesn't it?
I have no idea. I can hope so.
I think so. I actually think so. But yeah, just that's part of Dybala's injury record. Certainly a few injuries in there this season. If you look at it, but none of them were super long except the first one. I guess this season was 27 days. But yeah, I mean a couple of 2-3 weeks ones in there, but yeah, not great. Especially because they're literally all muscle injuries other than the medial collateral ligament injury, and I have no idea what the MCL is. Where it is.
It's in the
meniscus.
Knee. It's in the knee. You have an ACL and then an MCL, and the MCL is what like attaches the muscle to like your knee.
But it's not the meniscus. It's not a different word for meniscus, is it?
No, it's still. I mean, it's almost. It's like exactly like an ACL if you tear an ACL. Fair
dues. Yeah, it's the injury record doesn't read itself nicely. I will say, but the injury record wouldn't read itself nicely. But if I got a Kante up on screen, and Chelsea fans love him too. It's a weird one. I mean, the whole people, too high wages. It's whether that's for Dembele, whether that's for Dybala that people going about in these situations. I'm like, well, other players aren't stupid. Like I know. Obviously, people always say that, yeah, but it could ruin the wage structure. Yeah, but if you tell all the other players, they're like, yeah, he might be on higher wages, but that's because he came on a free. I think all the players in the squad would be like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that would necessarily ruin the wage structure. Things that ruin the wage structure is Timo Werner on 270k. That's what ruins wage structures. Callum on 120 when he's not playing. That's what ruins wage structures. But yeah, again, my big thing for Dybala is just how is he 28? That's my biggest confusion, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round it out here. I appreciate everybody that has tuned in today. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Smash the like button for me. Check out all of my lovely guests down in the description. Of course, subscribe to Jem's YouTube channel. Link is down in the description. Check out Pice's website, Chelsea FC 365. Thought it was Chelsea 365, but I was informed today it's Chelsea FC 365. So do check that out. Follow Clutch and Con on Twitter. Big shout out to all four of them, including Jem. But yeah, we're going to leave it here. Definitely see you on Friday. Let's see what England and Austria do. Not that we care. We're going to play a fantastic game against Scotland, friendly today, in a stadium that holds 60,000 people, and there's 3,000 tickets sold. Brilliant. Fantastic, Austria. So that's going to be fun. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching.
Wait, Laurenz, one more thing.
Go on.
Can we laugh at Man City for having the Atletico Madrid away tickets on general sale?
How much of a stinker can you have?
This is why, right? Just before we go, this is why I don't care how many titles they win. Like, I don't know any City fans, and how many times do their tickets go on general sale? Like, sorry, that just came up to me while you just mentioned Austria. That's just funny. I saw that earlier.
Bro, it's true. It's absolutely true. Like, I met one or two City fans randomly in a pub in my town, and they were like old, like 50-year-olds. So they were actually City fans from before they had money. So fair play to them. But it's just the shambles. And what's really annoying is there's Chelsea allocation at the Bernabeu for the away leg in Madrid. It's 1,800 tickets. It's outrageous. I know obviously they're going through redevelopment, meaning their capacity is drastically lower than before redevelopment and after redevelopment, but still 1,800 tickets. Like, I'm not going to get tickets there. Fuming, absolutely fuming. And I can't go to Premier League games as of right now because they don't sell tickets to members. So I'll either have to go to a Premier away game or to a Champions League home game. But for that, we need to beat Real Madrid. So Chelsea, please do beat Real Madrid because I still want to go see Chelsea this season, and I wanted to go Madrid away, but that's unlikely now. So hey, here we are. But yeah, unlucky Man City, absolute melts. But hey, thank you guys for watching. After Chelsea, do excuse me. Upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.